Bruce, you must have something really good too.
Of course I do. It's Bruce Danielson, and I guess I'm here to entertain you too.
Welcome. I call this Tuesday, May 10th, 2022 informational meeting to order. Thank you for coming. Our first order of business, as we normally do, is committee reports. The accessible housing report will be pushed off till our next available meeting. Marshall Suburbs unable to attend. And we'll skip the Siouxland Heritage Museum Board and get right into council remarks. Councilor Jensen.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Mr. David, could you please come up here, sir? I'd like to take a few moments to recognize our Chief of Legislation and Policy, Mr. Jim David, for 10 years of service to the City Council, 1/3 approximately of my life. So thank you very much for that. Many of us rely on Jim for formulating legislation and understanding complex issues, but he's also a driving force behind many of our organizational accomplishments as a city council. He coordinates the annual list of legislative priorities, facilitates intergovernmental meetings with legislators and county officials, local school boards and schools and other cities, and works closely with our constituents on behalf of our city council on a day-to-day basis. So to say he wears many hats would be a true statement. Jim, your service to the city is appreciated, truly. After the meeting, actually right now, I'm going to present you with your 10-year service anniversary coin on behalf of the council and the city. So thank you for everything you do. You can all stand up and clap for Jim now.
Thank you, Councilor Jensen. And thank you, Jim David, for your service. We greatly appreciate it. Councilor Starr, I see you just, would it be inappropriate to call on you for the Siouxland Heritage Museum Board?
No, it is a very quick report. One of the exciting things is that the museum does now have 3 interns for the summer. And one of the young ladies, and we're going to invite her to a council meeting, is the great-granddaughter of the architect of the museum and part of the Pettigrew House, or not the Pettigrew House, but the museum and different things. Her parents were also both interns for the museum system, but it was a stretch that they made some adjustments in the budget to have 3 interns, and it all goes back to the history from the Argus Leader artifacts that were donated to the museum to get them cataloged and get them into a usable format. So that was the most exciting thing, other than Bill Hoskins, the executive director, will be here shortly in the next couple of weeks to do his annual report on the museum. So I don't want to give away all of his secrets as well. So thank you.
Thank you. Well, at this time, are there other council remarks? Councilor Kiley?
Yes, I'd just like to report that Councilor Jensen and myself had the privilege of attending the Sioux Falls Skate Park Association's wrap-up on their fund drive. They exceeded their funding or their goal. They actually had over $1.7 million that they raised. $1.7 million. So when you match that, include the $800,000 coming from the city of Sioux Falls that this council approved of, that puts them at over $2.5 million. So they'll be able to build a park that they dreamed of, and they may even have some funding left over for programming and education for the city's youth. So congratulations to Walter Ports and everybody else that worked very hard on that project.
Thank you. Other council remarks? Councilor Brecky?
Councilmember, do you suppose it's safe to say that it's not a trend? Skateboarding, we can conclude that it's not a trend.
Correct.
For years, there was that concern on whether the city should invest money in it, and I know that Councilmember Kiley has talked about his son being an active skater back then when it was kind of a rebel activity, and now it's mainstream for sure, and that's very exciting news, so I just wanted to make that comment.
Other council remarks? Councilor Neitzer.
I was able to attend the Pettigrew Neighborhood Association meeting last night. Another councilor and 2 councilors-elect also attended that I saw. That was really a joint meeting with the presentation from Pettigrew and Cathedral Neighborhoods, and I'm looking at a presentation that they handed out, and they had a very well-done presentation, and that really had to do with a vacant lot at 9th and Grange that the school district owns, and what they would like to see in the future on that particular parcel. There's potential opportunities, and the city may acquire it or do some sort of there may be some sort of gifting or transfer that's to be determined. But since that's been out there, they wanted to talk to stakeholders as to what the neighborhood would like to see. When I say the neighborhood, Cathedral and Pettigrew, which both touch that particular property. So very interesting presentation. I put the presentation in your mailboxes, and I would encourage you to look at it. There's contact information in there and the transcript of the presentation that they did. So just encourage you to kind of look at it because it may come our way at some point. We don't know, but it may. Thanks.
Other council remarks? Seeing none, we'll move into our presentation today. Sioux Empire Housing Partnership. Hugo Barron. You can come right up to the microphones here in the middle.
Thank you for the invitation. And hello, everybody. I feel very honored to be here and for inviting me to your meeting. My name is Hugo Barron. Some of you may already know me from the Sioux Empire Housing Partnership. I worked for the agency for almost 5 years. And I've been the new president of the organization since October of last year after my predecessor, Jim Schmidt. So thank you for the invitation. And I'm here to share with you what the Sioux Empire Housing Partnership has been doing and is currently doing as an agency, and what his role has been with regarding education and how that relates to the affordable housing situation that we're all facing here, especially from the perspective of tenants and first-time home buyers. The Sioux Empire Housing Partnership is a HUD-approved agency. It's a non-for-profit housing organization whose purpose is to build stronger communities in South Dakota. SCHP began its formal operations since September of 1996 and has since been a part of conducting our mission, which is to provide housing, homebuyer counseling, and rental education services to low to moderate income families and minorities. Like I said, our mission is to help first-time home buyers achieve the American dream of homeownership and to assist tenants with their situations. So what advantages or benefits are there for clients when they come to our agency and take our services or request for assistance? Not all clients that we meet are ready to buy a home. We meet clients in different customers in different circumstances, but our educational and financial tools like budgeting and money management have helped our clients gain the self-confidence that they need to take control over their finances and spending habits. They also learn to embrace new behaviors that will help them reduce debt, increase or restore credit, and eventually become pre-qualified or approved for a mortgage loan. So we don't always just are involved with home buyers. We work with tenants who may be facing different situations. For example, we had a family yesterday, on Friday, that were interested in buying. And they had already met with or talked with a lender and a realtor. And after doing, financial analysis, we came to learn that maybe it was best for them to pause this process and work on their debt and increase their credit to have alternative options or better options for the mortgage loan possibilities. And they stressed that listening to the content have removed a lot of their concerns and fears, and it better prepare them for the mission that they have, the goals that they have. So most clients who have taken our courses have provided feedback, and they tell us things like it has made their navigating of the home buying process much less stress. They come to understand their finances and their purchase capability. It has prepared them to better choose a loan and to look for homes that are within their range, and understanding the different challenges that our market is presenting. Luckily, the first-time home buyer loan was increased because it was difficult for them to find homes at around $300,000, as many of you know. So that's helped somewhat, but we're still facing the different challenges that I think the whole nation is facing, which is a shortage in houses and opportunities like that. We've seen a rapid growth here in Sioux Falls, right? And it continues to happen all across the states, and which is expected to continue. And employment growth and opportunities here in Sioux Falls are attracting newcomers. So much work remains to be done in addressing the affordable housing crisis, particularly here in Sioux Falls and some of the surroundings. But I believe we can overcome any of these obstacles if we come together and work together as with the other different organizations that we're involved with. That being said, I'd like to maybe leave some room for some questions or comments.
Thank you. Questions? Councilor Starr?
Yes, thank you, sir. Thank you for being here this afternoon. Tell me a little bit about how your agency is funded, what the annual budget is, how you make the behind the scenes everybody get paid, because we all like to get paid.
Well, it's a great question, and one that's a big challenge since we're not seeing the numbers that we're accustomed to see due to the shortage and the first-time home buyer program being affected by different factors. So our funding, we have South Dakota Housing Development Authority who provides our HERO funding, which is our main source, and which is the program that we focus on for first-time home buyers. We do also have funding from different sources like Citi and other entities, U.S. Bank, and as well as others that we have funding from. Our budget, we're working towards increasing our numbers to meet our budget in order to keep the quality of services that we have been providing for years. Luckily, this month and hopefully next month, we'll pick up on some of those numbers. We see an estimated number of about 600 families per year. So to stay in business and, to maintain our website and our marketing strategies, requires that we have these different sources of funding. At this point, we're looking to maybe add another extra source to be able to hire another educator as we pick up on, hopefully, on more activity. But until then, we're going to basically budget pretty closely and stick to the numbers that we can manage.
Thank you. It's interesting the example that you gave of the family who came in last week. I sometimes get in that mindset that the reason people don't buy homes is because the shortage of homes, but it's so much more than that. it's the wages, it's the income that people have, it's the debt that they bring into the situation. And sometimes owning a home can be as much of a burden as it is a blessing sometimes, of expenses that it takes for upkeep of a home and different things. So thank you for bringing that reminder to us that it's more than just a housing shortage. It's being able to have people fully employed and to upskill themselves to be able to afford a home. And as we see numbers, you know, when I started on the council, we were, you know, 180, 190 for that first time home, and some of the new construction, and now we laugh if someone said they were building a new home for 180 or 190, let alone 300, and to find that availability. So thank you for being here today, and thank you for reminding us that it's so much more than just availability and a shortage of houses.
Absolutely. Thank you for the invitation.
Other questions? Councilor Neitzer?
Yes.
Yeah, I'd like to dig in a little bit at when you talked about helping tenants.
Yes.
So I'm curious what your scope of work is, because I do have requests that come in, and I just had one last week where somebody was having an issue. And so, so as it relates to people who are tenants, so maybe the first question is, do you provide assistance as it relates to finding a rental?
We don't directly provide assistance. Our main source of assistance is based on education and providing resources. Our connection with tenants comes in connection with the Section 8 program, that they have this education in place to help them navigate their finances. What we're seeing right now is that we're trying to maintain sustainability both in the tenant market as well as in the first-time home buyer mortgage market. And in doing so, we stress significantly two things: landlord and tenant relationships. Because not only do we have a language barrier at point and understanding the terms of their lease and enforcing those things, we also have situations where we have a very tight budget, and we have to look at things that will help them maintain what they have, but possibly look at maybe moving up to the next opportunity. We, at this point, our contact with individuals who are looking for a rental unit or who may be facing a different type of crisis because maybe their status is in delinquency status, we refer them out. But before we do that, we try to look at their financials, because either way, money is going to, income is going to be a great factor. And so, and like I said, and if they move on to a different landlord, this relationships and communication, it's going to come into play, and problem solving. You know, we promote the addressing things with the landlord, if possible, before we seek for mediation or other services that are there.
Okay, so if they're distressed and that, let's say they're a few months behind in rent, that's something where maybe you can provide education or a referral depending on their circumstances?
Right.
Okay.
We, our first analysis is to find out where they're at first. If it's something that maybe through our finance literacy program they can gather, and maybe we sometimes may speak with the landlord to see if we can buy them more time, if it's a matter of that. If the circumstances are not in favor, then we have to maybe recommend to either the Section 8 program through South Dakota Housing Development Authority or other local sources. But our goal is, like I said, working with tenants who are either at risk, but they're already in their place, and as well as maybe working with tenants who are looking to buy a home down the road.
Okay. Then maybe the last question is, and I suspect maybe this is a referral in your case, because there are a few nonprofits that do this on a limited basis, but many times I'll talk to a tenant who wants legal advice, Like, for example, there's a dispute between them and the landlord in terms of maybe the landlord is not fixing something that they think should be fixed, or, I mean, there's a whole litany of just legal questions. So if somebody comes to you and says, hey, I think my landlord is doing something illegal, is that, or there's some dispute as to what's in the contract terms of our lease or whatever, what do you do with somebody like that?
So it's not completely out of our scope because education in cases like this serves as a source of them learning their rights and also understanding landlord's rights and what might have been part on their behalf, what may lie on their behalf, or where to go depending on the county that they're located. Because we're not just serving the Sioux Falls community with the different formats that we have, like Zoom and other sources like that. We can reach out to, or we've been contacted by other places. So we find the local resources where they can go into and get legal advice. But like I said, we'll spend a few minutes going over their rights, understanding their rights as tenants, and by the time they come in contact with other sources, they can maybe request and enforce their rights or look into that.
Okay, and one more, if that's okay. So my last question would be, would you be a resource if somebody is living in a mobile home, whether they're renting it or own it, and they'd like to maybe take the next step and move to some sort of a traditional home?
Absolutely. We never turn anybody down. We always invite them in, listen to them, and then from assessing, sometimes it could be a 5-minute, it could be a 20-minute assessment. In cases like this, it's amazing how I've learned that you can make money off of selling a mobile home, where a few years ago that was impossible. So we are getting a few individuals who are looking to sell their mobile home and transitioning into a home purchase.
Okay.
So it is totally in our scope, yes.
Thank you.
Yep.
Council, other questions, comments? I've just got a few then.
Yes.
The rising interest rates that we've had now, how could you quantify how many people that's keeping out of houses, or what are you seeing in that market?
I'm sorry, the question was?
The rising interest rates, is that keeping people out of houses that would have qualified before?
Well, with this recent increase from 300,000 to 340,000, that has given more buying power to many of our first-time home buyers. But finding homes are around those price ranges, and right now what we're facing is they're having to offer quite a bit more money for what the listed price is, and so that may exceed what they've been approved for, on top of the shortage of homes. So right now, that's one issue that was a bit resolved. I think going in the future, a lot of our first-time home buyers are thinking about maybe looking into new construction, but more into maybe a condo or a townhouse, because they're having a hard time finding homes at those price ranges and making it through the different offers that are also in conjunction with their offers. Did that answer the question maybe?
Yep.
Okay.
So, okay. Any other questions? Seeing none, thank you very much for your presentation. You did a nice job, and thank you. You did a great job on your first time here. We appreciate it. I'm sure you'll be back many times.
Sounds good. Thank you very much for the opportunity.
This time we'll have public comment. If anybody would like to address our presentation, now would be the time. Not seeing any, I'd like to remind people that there's going to be reception. There's some fancy tables out in the outer area for our outgoing council. Meeting adjourned.